The darkness of space stretched endless and cold around the planet New Busan. The small human colony sat quietly on the edge of known space, its lights twinkling like stars against the planet's night side. Farmers worked their fields under artificial suns. Children played in the streets of small towns. Families gathered for dinner, talking about their day and making plans for tomorrow. None of them knew that death was coming. Far beyond the outer planets, something moved through the void. It was massive beyond understanding. Ships the size of small moons drifted forward in perfect formation. Each vessel pulsed with strange biomechanical life. Tubes and cables covered their hulls like veins. At their centers, captured stars burned, in cages of metal and flesh, forced to power the alien war machines. This was the Hegemony Collective. For 300 years, they had swept across the galaxy like a plague. 12 different alien species had joined together under one banner. They had one simple rule: surrender or die. So far, 847 star systems had learned this lesson. Most chose surrender. Those who chose to fight were turned to glass and ash. The Hegemony fleet numbered over 2,000 ships. Each one carried millions of alien warriors. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could stop any attack. In 3 centuries of war, they had never lost a single battle. Admiral Quan De Ho stood on the bridge of the human warship Iron Crane. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. His uniform was simple and clean. No fancy decorations or bright colors. Just the badge of Earth's United Fleet on his chest. "Admiral," said Captain Park Hae-jin, walking up to him. She was younger, with short black hair and quick, smart eyes. "We're getting reports from the outer sensors. The Hegemony fleet is 3 days away from New Busan." Daeho nodded slowly. He had been expecting this news, but it still hit him like a punch to the stomach. "How many ships?" "Over 2,000, sir. Maybe more. It's hard to count them all." The bridge was quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The Iron Crane was alone out here. The rest of Earth's fleet was defending other colonies, fighting other battles. There was no time to call for help. By the time other ships arrived, New Busan would be gone. Daeho looked out at the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there, 2 million human colonists were living their lives. They had come to this distant world to build something new, to raise their children under an alien sun, to find hope in the darkness of space. "Sir," said Engineer Kim Tae-won from his station. He was a thin man with quick hands and an even quicker mind. "I'm reading the power signatures from their fleet. Each of their big ships has more firepower than our entire home fleet combined." Dr. Lee So-ra looked up from her communications console. She was the ship's expert on alien life and languages. "I'm picking up their transmissions, Admiral. They're not even trying to hide their approach. They want us to know they're coming." Daeho walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. 200 humans on a single ship. That was all that stood between the Hegemony and another world full of innocent people. The Iron Crane was not like other human warships. It was smaller, faster, and equipped with experimental technology that most people thought was too dangerous to use. The quantum fold drive could move the ship instantly across vast distances. But each jump was a risk. Jump wrong, and the ship would be torn apart. "Captain Park," Daeho said, "what's our tactical situation?" Hae-jin pulled up a hologram in the center of the bridge. It showed the approaching Hegemony fleet as red dots. There were so many that they looked like a red cloud moving through space. At the center was one dot bigger than all the others. "That's their flagship," Hae-jin said, pointing at the large dot. "Intelligence calls it the World Render. It's 70 kilometers long and carries over 50 million crew members. The smaller ships are only about 50 kilometers each. Only 50 kilometers. Daeho almost smiled at that. The Iron Crane was 800 meters long. Next to these alien ships, it was like a minnow swimming with whales. "What about their weapons?" he asked. "Plasma cannons that can melt mountains, graviton bombs that can crush cities, biomissiles that eat through any armor we've ever built." Hae-jin's voice was calm, but everyone could hear the worry underneath. "Sir, we can't fight them head-on. Not even close. Taewon spoke up from his engineering station. The quantum drive is working, Admiral. I've been running tests all week. We can make short jumps with almost no risk. Longer jumps are still dangerous, but possible. How dangerous? For a jump. Across the solar system? About a 30% chance the ship breaks apart. Daeho nodded. Those were not good odds, but they were better than the odds of surviving a direct fight with the hegemony. Dr. Sora turned in her chair. Admiral, I'm picking up more transmissions. They're sending messages to New Busan, demanding immediate surrender. What's the colony's response? Governor Kim is asking for more time. He's trying to evacuate the civilians. Daeho knew it was hopeless. New Busan had transport ships, but not nearly enough to move 2 million people. And where would they go? Space was vast and empty. The nearest human world was months away. Sir, said Lieutenant Nam Jun from the weapons station. He was young, barely out of the academy. What are our orders? Daeho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his grandfather, who had fought in the old wars on Earth, wars where brave soldiers faced impossible odds with nothing but courage and determination. His grandfather used to tell him stories about battles where small forces defeated much larger ones, not through superior weapons or numbers, but through clever tactics and unbreakable will. We're going to stop them, Daeho said finally. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at him. Finally, Heejin spoke up. Sir, we're one ship. They have 2,000. I know the math, Captain, but those people down there are counting on us. We're all they have. Admiral, Dr. Sora said gently. It might be suicide. Daeho turned to look at his crew. These were good people, smart people. They had families back on Earth. They had futures ahead of them. He had no right to ask them to die for strangers on a distant world. I won't order anyone to stay, he said. We have escape pods, shuttle bays. Anyone who wants to leave can go now. I'll understand. Nobody moved. Not one person left their station. Yijin smiled. Where would we go, sir? Our duty is here. Taewon called out from engineering. The drive is ready, Admiral. Just tell me where you want to go. Dr. Sora nodded from her station. I'm with you, sir. All the way. One by one, every crew member on the bridge spoke up. They were staying. They were fighting. Even though they knew the odds, Daeho felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the ship's heating system. This was why humanity had spread to the stars. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because when things got dark, they stood together. All right then, he said. Let's go save a world. The iron crane turned away from New Busan and accelerated toward the approaching alien fleet. Its engines glowed blue-white against the darkness. Behind it, the colony's lights continued to twinkle, unaware that their fate now rested in the hands of 200 brave souls. 3 days later, the hegemony fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Busan system. Their massive ships hung in space like dark mountains. Energy crackled between their hull plates, weapons charged with the power of stars. On the bridge of the World Render, High Commander Zethkar studied the tactical displays. He was a creature of scales and sharp teeth, with 4 arms and eyes like black pearls. His species had been conquering worlds when humans were still learning to make fire. Report, he growled in the common tongue of the hegemony. The human colony has 2 million inhabitants, said his tactical officer. No significant defenses. A few patrol boats and cargo haulers. This will be over in minutes. And their military response? 1 ship, Commander, a small destroyer. It's moving to intercept us. Zethkar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 1 ship? Are they insane? It appears so, Commander. The vessel is designated Iron Crane, 800 meters long, crew of approximately 200. 200? Zethkar laughed again. I have more warriors in my personal guard. What weapons does it carry? Standard human armaments, kinetic projectiles, some plasma weapons, nothing that could scratch our shields. Zethkar studied the display showing the tiny human ship. It was accelerating toward his fleet at maximum speed. Either the humans were incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. In his experience, there was often no difference between the two. "Shall we destroy it immediately, Commander?" asked his weapons officer. "No," Zethkar said. "Let them come closer. I want to see what they think they can accomplish. This should be amusing." The hegemony fleet continued its advance toward New Busan. Their scanners showed the human ship racing toward them like a moth flying into a fire. In a few hours, they would meet. Zethkar had conquered hundreds of worlds. He had seen every type of defense imaginable, massive space fortresses, fleets of thousands of ships, entire planets turned into weapons. All had fallen before the might of the hegemony. But this was new. One tiny ship against an armada. Either the humans had a secret weapon beyond imagination, or they were about to commit the most pointless act of suicide in galactic history. Either way, it would be over soon. On the Iron Crane, Admiral Daeho W. The Iron Crane raced through space toward the massive alien fleet. On the main screen, the enemy ships grew larger and larger until they filled the entire view. Each vessel was like a dark city floating in the void. Lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at. Strange energy crackled between antenna arrays that stretched for kilometers. Admiral Daeho stood at the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The ship hummed with power, as all systems ran at maximum efficiency. 5 minutes to weapons range, announced Captain Park Hee-jin from her tactical station. Her fingers danced over the controls, analyzing the enemy formation. "I count 2,047 ships total. They're arranged in a sphere pattern around their flagship." "Any weaknesses in their formation?" Daeho asked. Hee-jin studied the display for a moment. "They're overconfident, sir. The formation is perfect for defending against a large fleet attack. But they're not prepared for a single small ship. They probably think we're going to ram them." Engineer Kim Tae-won called out from his station. "All drive systems are green. Admiral, quantum fold generators are charged and ready. I can jump us anywhere within a 50,000-kilometer radius in less than 3 seconds." Dr. Lee Sora looked up from her communications console. "Sir, I'm monitoring their internal transmissions. They're definitely not taking us seriously. Most of their crews aren't even at battle stations." On the main screen, the alien fleet loomed like a wall of metal and death. The smallest ships were still 50 times larger than the Iron Crane. Their weapons could vaporize mountains. Their shields could stop any attack humanity had ever devised. But Daeho was not thinking about what humanity had done before. He was thinking about what they could do now. "Dr. Sora," he said, "open a channel to the hegemony flagship." "Channel open, sir." The screen flickered and once again showed the bridge of the world render. High Commander Zethkar sat on his throne, surrounded by alien officers of different species. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed air, others breathed toxic gases through metal masks. But they all shared the same expression of amused contempt. "Still approaching, little human?" Zethkar asked. "I thought you might have reconsidered by now." "We've reconsidered," Daeho said calmly. "We've decided you're even uglier than we first thought." The alien commander's eyes narrowed. "You insult me? You with your pathetic little ship?" "It's not an insult if it's true," Daeho replied. "By the way, nice fleet. Very impressive. Must have taken you a long time to gather so many ships just to attack defenseless farmers. These farmers will bow before the hegemony, as all intelligent life must. And if they refuse?" Zethkar's smile showed rows of sharp teeth. "Then they will join the millions who chose death over surrender. Their bones will fertilize their crops." "I see. And what about us? What happens to my crew when you destroy our ship? If you amuse me further, I might preserve some of you as curiosities. Humans are rare in this part of the galaxy. You would make interesting specimens." Daeho nodded thoughtfully. "That's a generous offer, but I think we'll pass." "Then you choose death." "So be it." Zethkar raised one of his 4 hands. "Weapons, target the human vessel. Prepare to..." The transmission cut off as the Iron Crane suddenly vanished from space. On the bridge of the world render, alarms began blaring. Officers shouted in confusion as their sensors lost track of the human ship. "Where did it go?" Zethkar roared. "Unknown, Commander," replied his sensor officer. "It simply disappeared. Find it, now." Throughout the hegemony fleet, thousands of sensors swept space looking for the tiny human ship, but the iron crane was gone as if it had never existed. 3 seconds later, it reappeared. The iron crane materialized directly behind a hegemony cruiser, so close that the two ships almost touched. Before the alien crew could react, the human ship opened fire with everything it had. Kinetic rounds slammed into the cruiser's engine section. Plasma beams cut through armor plating like a hot knife through butter. The alien ship shuddered under the attack. Explosions bloomed along its hull as critical systems failed. But its shields held, and its massive bulk could absorb tremendous damage. Then the iron crane vanished again. "What in the void was that?" Zethkar demanded. "Some kind of teleportation device," his science officer reported. "Very advanced, I've never seen anything like it." One ship, find one tiny ship. But before his fleet could respond, the iron crane appeared again. This time it materialized inside the enemy formation between two battleships. It fired a spread of missiles at one ship and raked the other with plasma fire before disappearing once more. "Impossible!" Zethkar slammed his fist on the arm of his throne. "How are they moving so fast?" On the iron crane, the crew worked with smooth efficiency. They had drilled this maneuver 1,000 times in simulation. But this was their first real test. "Jump complete," Taewan reported. "All systems nominal. Drive will be ready for another jump in 10 seconds. "Targets of opportunity?" Daeho asked. Shi Jin studied her tactical display. "There's a group of destroyers about 20 kilometers to our starboard. They're isolated from the main formation. Take us there." Space twisted around the iron crane as it folded distance like paper. One moment it was hidden in the shadow of an asteroid. The next it was among the alien destroyers like a wolf among sheep. The human ship was tiny compared to its enemies, but it was also incredibly fast and agile. It danced between the massive alien vessels, firing precisely aimed shots at critical systems, engine pods, weapon mounts, shield generators. The aliens tried to respond, but their huge ships were too slow. By the time they could turn their weapons to track the iron crane, it was already gone, appearing somewhere else in their formation. "This is impossible," screamed the captain of one of the destroyers as his ship took hit after hit from the elusive human vessel. "How can something so small be so fast?" His question was answered when the iron crane appeared directly above his bridge and dropped a pair of heavy missiles onto his command center. The destroyer's lights went out as its crew scrambled for emergency stations. "Status report," Zethkar demanded from his flagship. "We've lost contact with 7 ships," his communications officer replied. 12 more are reporting damage. The human vessel keeps appearing and disappearing faster than we can track. How much damage are they actually doing?" "Minimal, Commander. Their weapons can't penetrate our main armor, but they're targeting our secondary systems, communications, sensors, maneuvering thrusters." Zethkar growled in frustration. The tiny human ship was like an insect buzzing around his head. Annoying, but hardly dangerous. Still, he had never encountered anything like this before. All ships converge on the human vessel. When it appears, I want every gun in the fleet aimed at it. But the iron crane was already adapting its tactics. Instead of attacking individual ships, it began targeting the connections between vessels. The hegemony fleet stayed in formation using massive tractor beams and communication arrays. The iron crane started cutting these links. "Sir," Hyojin reported, "their formation is starting to break apart. Without their coordination systems, they can't maintain proper spacing." "Good. Keep hitting them." "Taewan, how are our power levels?" "Quantum drive is running hot, but stable. We can keep this up for another hour, maybe 2, Dr. Sora called, out from her station. "Admiral, I'm picking up transmissions from the alien fleet. They're starting to get angry." "Angry is good," Daeho said. "Angry people make mistakes." The iron crane continued its deadly dance through the enemy formation. It would appear, strike fast and hard, then vanish before the aliens could respond. Each attack was precisely planned and perfectly executed, but the aliens were learning too. They began spreading their ships further apart, making it harder for the Iron Crane to hit multiple targets. They started using predictive firing, shooting at where they thought the human ship would appear next. "They're getting smarter," Heejin observed, as a plasma bolt barely missed them during their latest jump. "Then we need to get smarter too," Daeho replied. "Taewon, can you make shorter jumps? Just a few hundred meters?" "I can try, sir. But the shorter the jump, the more precise I have to be. One mistake and we could materialize inside an enemy ship." "Do it." The Iron Crane began, making micro-jumps, appearing and disappearing so quickly that the alien sensors couldn't keep up. It would materialize next to a ship, fire a single shot at a critical system, then vanish before the enemy could even detect it. To the aliens, it looked like their ships were being attacked by ghosts. Weapons would suddenly explode for no reason. Shield generators would fail without warning. Communication arrays would go dark as if cut by invisible hands. "This is madness," Zethkar roared. "Deploy all fighters. Flood the area with small craft. They can't hide from everything." Thousands of alien fighter craft poured out of the larger ships like angry wasps from a disturbed hive. They spread throughout the formation, searching for the elusive human vessel. But the Iron Crane had been built for this kind of fight. Its experimental stealth systems could fool most sensors, and its small size made it nearly impossible to spot visually in the darkness of space. The fighters searched and searched, but found nothing. Meanwhile, the Iron Crane continued its attacks, now targeting the fighter. High Commander Zethkar stared at the tactical display with growing disbelief. Red indicators showed damaged or destroyed ships scattered across the battlefield. What had been a perfect military formation 6 hours ago was now a chaotic mess of drifting hulks and panicked vessels. "Status report," he growled, his forearms gripping the arms of his throne so tightly that the metal began to crack. 63 ships destroyed, Commander," his tactical officer reported with a trembling voice. 147 more, with significant damage. The human vessel continues to evade all our attempts to locate and destroy it. "How is this possible?" Zethkar demanded. "It's one ship. One tiny ship against the might of the entire hegemony." His science officer, a tall creature with pale blue skin and multiple eyes, stepped forward nervously. "Commander, I've been analyzing their attack patterns. They're not fighting like any enemy we've encountered before." "Explain." "They're using our own size against us. Our ships are too large to maneuver quickly. By the time we detect them and aim our weapons, they're already gone. It's like trying to swat a fly with a hammer." Zethkar's eyes burned with rage. "Then we stop using hammers. Deploy all remaining fighters, every last one. I want so many small craft in space that they can't move without hitting something." Across the fleet, thousands more fighter craft poured out of launch bays. Soon, the space around New Busan was filled with a swarm of alien vessels, each one searching desperately for the elusive human ship. But aboard the Iron Crane, Admiral Daeho was already adapting to this new threat. "They're trying to flood the area with fighters," Captain Park Hae-jin observed from her tactical station. "Over 10,000 small craft now in the area." "Noted," Daeho replied calmly. "Taewon, can you make precision jumps inside their larger ships?" Engineer Kim Taewon looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. "Inside, sir, that's extremely dangerous. If I miscalculate by even a few meters, we could materialize inside solid metal." "Can you do it?" Taewon was quiet for a moment, running calculations in his head. "I'd need detailed scans of their internal structure. But, yes, theoretically it's possible." Dr. Lee Sora turned from her communication station. "I've been analyzing their hull designs, Admiral. Most of these ships have large internal spaces, hangar bays, cargo holds, command centers. If we could get the exact coordinates—" "Do it," Daeho ordered. "Target their biggest ship first." The Iron Crane vanished from normal space, folding distance in a way that the alien scientists still couldn't understand. When it reappeared, it was inside the main hangar bay of a hegemony super dreadnought. The massive space was filled with fighter craft being prepared for launch. Alien crew members in environmental suits scurried around like ants, loading weapons and fueling engines. When the human ship suddenly materialized in their midst, They stopped and stared in complete shock. The Iron Crane opened fire immediately. Its weapons were designed for space combat, not close quarters fighting inside a ship. But at point-blank range, they were devastating. Explosions ripped through the hangar bay as fuel tanks and ammunition stores went up in chain reactions. The alien crew ran in panic as their own fighter craft exploded around them. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. Blast doors slammed shut to contain the damage, but it was too late. The Iron Crane had already jumped to another location inside the massive vessel. This time it appeared in the ship's main power distribution center. The room was filled with massive cables and energy conduits that fed power to every system on the ship. The Iron Crane fired a spread of missiles directly into the main power coupling. The lights went out throughout the super dreadnought. Emergency power kicked in, but it was only enough to keep life support running. Weapons, shields, and engines all went dark. Before the alien crew could even begin damage control, the Iron Crane was gone again. "What's happening?" Zethkar screamed into his communicator. "Report!" "The human ship." "It's inside the Devourer," came the panicked reply from the super dreadnought's captain. "They're attacking us from within." "That's impossible. How did they get through our shields?" "I don't know, Commander. They just appeared." Throughout the fleet, similar reports began coming in. The Iron Crane was jumping inside ships at will, striking at critical systems from within. It was like fighting an enemy that could walk through walls. "Sir," Hyojin reported from her station aboard the Iron Crane, "we've disabled 7 of their largest ships, but I'm reading massive power buildups in their remaining vessels. I think they're preparing something big." Deho nodded. He had expected this. The aliens were desperate now, and desperate enemies were dangerous. "What kind of power buildup?" he asked. Dr. Sora studied her sensors. "It looks like they're charging some kind of gravitational weapon, something that can create artificial gravity fields." "A gravity net," Taewon said grimly. "If they can create a strong enough gravitational field, it might prevent us from making quantum jumps." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 20 minutes before they're ready to fire." Deho considered their options. They had been fighting for 7 hours straight. His crew was exhausted and their ship was running on fumes. The quantum drive was overheating and they were down to their last reserves of ammunition. But they had also accomplished something that seemed impossible. They had taken on the most powerful fleet in the galaxy and were winning. "New plan," he said. "We're going to end this fight before they can trap us." "Sir?" Yejin asked. "We're going after their flagship, the World Render. If we can take out their command ship, the rest of the fleet will be in chaos." Taewon looked up from his engineering station. "Admiral, that ship is 70 kilometers long. It probably has millions of crew members and defenses we can't even imagine. Which is exactly why they won't expect us to attack it directly." "Doctor," Sora pulled up a detailed scan of the massive flagship. "I'm reading incredible power levels from that ship, Admiral. Its shields are stronger than anything else in the fleet, and it's surrounded by escort vessels. Then we go through them. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for centuries to come." The Iron Crane began a systematic assault on the escort ships surrounding the World Render, but instead of its usual hit-and-run tactics, it stayed and fought. The human ship danced between the alien escorts like a deadly ballet dancer. It would appear next to one ship, pour devastating fire into its weak points, then spin away as return fire lit up the space where it had been. Its movements were so fluid and precise that it seemed almost alive. One by one, the escort ships fell. Some exploded outright as their reactors were breached. Others simply went dark as their power systems failed. A few tried to ram the elusive human vessel, but the Iron Crane was always one step ahead, vanishing just before impact and appearing behind them to deliver killing blows. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered as he watched his elite guard ships being systematically destroyed. "This cannot be happening." His tactical officer was openly weeping now. "Commander, we've lost half the escort fleet. The human ship is heading directly for us. All weapons target the human vessel. Full power." The World Render was a ship built for war. Its weapons could crack planets. Its shields could stop asteroids. When it fired, space itself seemed to burn. But the Iron Crane was no longer where the weapons were aimed. It had jumped again, this time appearing directly above the flagship's main communications array. A spread of missiles destroyed the massive dish in seconds, cutting the world render off from the rest of the fleet. "They're jamming our communications," the communications officer reported. "Switch to backup systems." They just destroyed those, too. The Iron Crane was systematically destroying every external system on the flagship: communications arrays, sensor dishes, weapon mounts, shield generators. Each attack was precise and devastating. "They're taking us apart piece by piece," the tactical officer said in horror. Zethkar rose from his throne, his face twisted with rage. "If they want to fight us ship to ship, then so be it. All crew to battle stations. Prepare for boarding. Action." But even as he gave the order, he knew it was hopeless. The human ship was faster, smarter, and more maneuverable than anything he had ever faced. His massive flagship, which had seemed like an invincible fortress just hours ago, now felt like a lumbering beast being hunted by a pack of wolves. The Iron Crane made another pass at the world render, this time targeting the ship's main engine. Assemblies. Massive explosions bloomed along the flagship's stern as its primary drives went offline. "Engine power at 30% and falling," reported the engineering officer. "Maneuvering thrusters offline. Main weapons charging slowly due to power loss." The mighty world render, flagship of the hegemony fleet, was dead in space. Around it, the rest of the alien armada watched in stunned silence as their most powerful ship was systematically crippled by a vessel they could barely see. "Commander," the science officer said quietly, "our gravity net weapon is still charging, but without main power. It will take another hour to reach full strength." Zethkar slumped back onto his throne. An hour. The human ship could destroy half his fleet in an hour. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Iron Crane. "Admiral Day." The Iron Crane drifted silently through the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Twisted metal and strange alien materials floated past the bridge windows like a graveyard of stars. In the distance, New Busan hung peacefully in space, its lights twinkling with the promise of 2 million lives saved. Admiral Daeho stood at the center of the bridge, watching the scattered remains of the hegemony fleet disappear into faster-than-light jumps. His crew was exhausted but victorious. They had achieved the impossible. But the celebration was short-lived. "Admiral," Dr. Lee Sora called out from her communications station, her voice tight with worry. "I'm picking up new transmissions. Long range. Sensors are detecting another fleet approaching the system." The bridge fell silent. Captain Park Hae-jin looked up from her tactical display, her face pale. "How many ships?" "I can't get an exact count yet, but it's big. Much bigger than the First Fleet." Engineer Kim Tae-wan wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked his instruments. "Sir, our quantum drive is running on emergency power. We've pushed it past all safety limits. I don't know if we can fight another battle." Daeho felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. They had won one impossible victory, but at a terrible cost. His ship was damaged, his crew was exhausted, and now another enemy fleet was coming. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. Dr. Sora studied her readings. 6 hours, maybe 7. "And our status?" Tae-wan shook his head grimly. "The quantum drive needs at least 12 hours to cool down before we can use it safely again. Right now, if we try to make a long-distance jump, there's a 90% chance the ship will tear itself apart." Hye-jin pulled up a tactical analysis. "Admiral, even if our ship was at full power, we can't fight another fleet this size. The crew is exhausted. We're low on ammunition. The first battle took everything we had." Daeho nodded slowly. He had known this moment might come. One ship, no matter how skilled its crew, could only do so much. They had bought New Busan time, but not safety. "Open a channel to the colony," he ordered. The main screen flickered to show the face of Governor Kim Min-ho, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and worry lines around his mouth. Behind him, the emergency command center buzzed with activity. "Admiral Daeho," the governor said, relief evident in his voice. Thank you. What you've done here today, there are no words. Don't thank me yet, Governor. We have a problem. Another hegemony fleet is approaching, bigger than the first one. The relief on the governor's face turned to horror. How long do we have? 6 hours. Can you stop them like you stopped the others? Deho was quiet for a moment. Around him, his crew waited for his answer. Finally, he spoke. We'll try, Governor, but I need you to begin evacuating the colony immediately. Get as many people off-world as possible. Admiral, our transport ships can only carry a few thousand at a time, with 2 million colonists. I know. Just do what you can. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Everyone knew the mathematics. Even if they could somehow defeat the second fleet, there would be a third. And a fourth. The hegemony would keep sending ships until the tiny human vessel was finally overwhelmed. Sir, said Lieutenant Namjoon from the weapons station, what are your orders? Deho looked around at his crew. These brave people had already given everything they had. They had faced impossible odds and won through skill, courage, and determination. He had no right to ask more of them. But he was going to anyway. We fight, he said simply. We buy the colonists as much time as we can. Dr. Sora looked up from her console. Admiral, I'm getting more detailed readings on the approaching fleet. This isn't just another hegemony attack force. I'm reading ship designs from at least 20 different species. This is a joint armada. What does that mean? It means word of our victory has already spread. The hegemony has called in reinforcements from all their allied species. They're not taking any chances this time. Hyojin studied the tactical data as it came in. 4,000 ships, Admiral. Maybe more. They're bringing everything they have. Taewon shook his head. We can't fight 4,000 ships, not with our drive system damaged. Then we don't fight them the same way, Deho said. We adapt. Over. The next several hours, the crew of the Iron Crane worked feverishly to prepare for the coming battle. Taewon managed to jury-rig the quantum drive to allow short-range jumps, though each one risked catastrophic failure. Hyojin analyzed the approaching fleet's formation, looking for any weakness they could exploit. Dr. Sora monitored communications, trying to learn everything she could about the enemy's plans. But as the massive alien armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, everyone knew they were facing their final battle. This fleet was different from the first one. The ships were arranged in a perfect sphere with no gaps or weaknesses. They moved slowly and carefully, their sensors sweeping space continuously. They had learned from the first fleet's mistakes. At the center of the formation was a ship that dwarfed even the world render. It was over 200 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire worlds. This was the hegemony's ultimate weapon, brought out only for the most serious threats. Incoming transmission, Dr. Sora announced. The main screen showed a new alien commander. This one was different from Zethkar. Taller, more heavily armored with cybernetic implants covering half his face. His eyes glowed with artificial light, and when he spoke, his voice was like grinding metal. I am Supreme General Veltar of the Hegemony War Council, he said. You are the humans who destroyed our expeditionary fleet. That's right, Deho replied calmly. And you are? I am the end of your species' defiance. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Counteroffer, Deho said. Turn around and leave, and we won't destroy your fleet like we did the last one. Veltar's mechanical laughter echoed across the communication channel. Brave words from a dead man. Did you think we would not learn from our defeat? This time, we are prepared. Prepared for what? For you. The transmission ended, and immediately, the alien fleet began to move. But instead of attacking, they spread out across the system in a vast net. Thousands of ships took up positions around New Busan, completely surrounding the planet and its moon. They're not attacking, Hyojin observed. They're forming a blockade. Dr. Sora's instruments lit up with activity. Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout their fleet. They're charging some kind of system weapon. What kind of weapon? I've never seen anything like it. It's creating artificial gravity fields between their ships. They're turning the entire system into a giant gravity trap. Tae-Wan looked up from his engineering station, his face pale. Sir, if they complete that network, we won't be able to make quantum jumps anywhere in the system. We'll be trapped. Daeho felt the walls closing in around them. The aliens had learned from their previous defeat. Instead of trying to catch the Iron Crane with brute force, they were using science and technology to eliminate the human ship's greatest advantage. How long until the gravity net is complete? He asked. 30 minutes, Dr. Sora replied. And how long until we can make a system-wide jump to escape? Tae-Wan checked his instruments. At least 2 hours, sir. Maybe 3. The mathematics were clear. They were trapped. All right, Daeho said. If we can't run, then we fight. Heejin, what's the weakest point in their formation? There isn't one, sir. They've learned from the first battle. Every ship is supported by at least 3 others. There are no isolated targets. Then we make our own opportunities. What followed was the most desperate battle in human history. The Iron Crane attacked the alien fleet with everything it had, but for every ship it damaged, 2 more moved in to support it. The aliens had overwhelming numbers and perfect coordination. Worse, the gravity net was working. With each passing minute, the Iron Crane's jumps became shorter and less accurate. The quantum drive was being interfered with by the artificial gravity fields. We're running out of options, Hyojin reported, as another attack run failed to break through the enemy lines. And ammunition, added Namjoon from the weapons station. Daeho looked around the bridge. His crew was giving everything they had, but it wasn't enough. The aliens had learned from their mistakes and adapted. This time there would be no miracle victory. Then Dr. Sora made a discovery that changed everything. Admiral, she called, out excitement in her voice. I've been analyzing the gravity net system. I think I've found something. What? The power source for the gravity generators. They're not using their ship's reactors. They're drawing power from something else. Something much more powerful. What kind of power source? Stars, sir. They've somehow captured stellar energy and are channeling it through their fleet. Tae-Wan looked up from his station. That's impossible. You can't capture stellar energy without... He stopped, his eyes widening as understanding dawned. Without... What? Daeho demanded. Without enslaving the star itself, Tae-Wan whispered. They've somehow bound stellar consciousnesses to power their ships. Dr. Sora nodded grimly. That's what I think too. And if we're right, then those stars are prisoners. They're being forced to power the weapons that destroy other worlds. Daeho felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard rumors about the hegemony's power sources, but The Iron Crane raced toward the massive alien flagship like a bullet fired at a mountain. Around them, 4,000 enemy ships tracked their movement with weapons that could vaporize entire cities. The gravity net grew stronger with each passing second, making their quantum jumps shorter and more dangerous. 30 seconds to weapons range, Captain Park Hyojin announced from her tactical station. Her voice was steady, but everyone on the bridge could feel the tension. Admiral Daeho stood at the center of the bridge, watching the enemy flagship grow larger on the main screen. The ship was a monster of metal and flesh, over 200 kilometers long. Strange organic tubes pulsed along its hull like veins. At its heart, he could see a burning light that seemed to scream in frequencies his ears couldn't hear. Dr. Sora, he said, are you ready? Dr. Lee Sora looked up from her communications console. Her equipment had been modified with components from every system on the ship. Cables and wires ran across the bridge like a spider's web. I think so, Admiral. But I need to get very close to establish a connection. The stellar consciousness is buried deep inside their ship. How close? Inside their shields. Maybe inside the ship itself. Engineer Kim Tae-Wan called out from his station. Admiral, the quantum drive is failing. We've got maybe 2 or 3 jumps left before the whole system shuts down. Then we better make them count. The alien flagship opened fire. Plasma beams, thicker than skyscrapers, reached out toward the tiny human ship. The Iron Crane twisted and spun through the deadly light show, its hull glowing from near misses. Jump, Daeho ordered. Space folded around them, and suddenly they were inside the enemy's defensive perimeter. Alien fighters swarmed around them like angry insects, firing everything they had. The Iron Crane's point defense systems worked overtime, shooting down missiles and deflecting energy beams. There, Dr. Sora pointed at the main screen. I can see the power core. It's in the center of the ship, surrounded by some kind of containment field. Jin studied the tactical display. Admiral, that section is heavily defended. I count at least 50 weapon emplacements between us and the core. We go through them. What followed was a running battle through the heart of the alien flagship. The Iron Crane made micro-jumps through the ship's internal structure, appearing in corridors and cargo bays, always moving toward the center. Behind them, alien security forces scrambled to respond. But the human ship was always one step ahead. Hull breach on Deck 3, reported Lieutenant Nam Jun. But we're still sealed. Drive system at critical temperature, Tae-Wan added. One more jump might be our last. They broke through into a massive chamber at the heart of the ship, and there, suspended in a cage of twisted metal and alien technology, was something that took their breath away. It was a star. Not a full-sized star, but a stellar consciousness compressed into a space the size of a building. It burned with the fury of nuclear fire, but its light was wrong. Sad, angry, chains of energy bound it to the alien machinery, forcing it to power their weapons of war. My God, Dr. Sora whispered. It's beautiful, and it's in pain. Around the chamber, alien guards rushed toward their ship, energy weapons charged up to fire, but Dr. Sora was already working at her console, trying to establish communication with the imprisoned star. I've got something, she said. It's trying to speak to me. On her screen, patterns of light began to form, mathematical equations written in fire. Star speech that conveyed meaning beyond words. Help us, the pattern said. We burn in chains. We power death. Help us be free. There are more of them, Dr. Sora said, tears streaming down her face. Every ship in their fleet has a captured star. They've been enslaved for centuries. Free us, the star consciousness pleaded. We will help. We will fight. Can you break their chains? Daeho asked. Dr. Sora's fingers flew over her controls. I think so, but I need to access their containment system, and that means getting closer, a lot closer. Daeho didn't hesitate. Do it. Tae-Wan, take us in. The Iron Crane flew directly toward the caged star. Alien weapons fired at them from every direction, but the small ship slipped between, the energy beams like a dancer avoiding raindrops. The stellar consciousness burned brighter as they approached, as if sensing freedom was near. I'm in, Dr. Sora announced. I've got access to their containment protocols. Her equipment sparked and smoked as she fought against alien security, systems that had been built to last for millennia. Code flowed across her screens in languages that human minds were never meant to understand. They've got us locked in a tractor beam, Hyejin reported. We can't maneuver. Around them, the alien chamber filled with security forces. Creatures in powered armor raised weapons that glowed with deadly energy. The Iron Crane was trapped, held motionless by the flagship's tractor beam. Dr. Sora? Daeho asked. Almost there. I just need 30 more seconds. We don't have 30 seconds. The alien guards opened fire. Energy beams struck the Iron Crane's hull, overloading its shields. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship as systems began to fail. Hull breach on multiple decks, Nam Jun reported. We're losing atmosphere. Drive system offline, Tae-Wan added. We're dead in space. But Dr. Sora was still working, her hands moving faster than seemed humanly possible. Code streamed across her screens as she fought to break chains that had been forged by the most advanced alien science. Got it, she shouted. The containment field around the stellar consciousness flickered and died. For a moment, the chamber was filled with light brighter than any sun. The captured star was free. Thank you, it said in patterns of fire that burned themselves into their minds. We remember friendship. We remember allies. The star's light spread throughout the alien ship, racing along power conduits and data cables. And everywhere it touched, other imprisoned stars heard its call. Across the vast fleet, stellar consciousnesses that had been enslaved for centuries suddenly remembered what freedom meant. One by one, they broke their own chains, their combined will overwhelming the alien containment systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the hegemony fleet, ships went dark as their power sources rebelled. Weapons shut down mid-fire. Shields collapsed. Life support systems failed as the enslaved stars turned against their captors. On the bridge of the Iron Crane, they watched in amazement as the massive alien fleet simply stopped working. 4,000 ships, the most powerful armada in galactic history, was suddenly dead in space. "The stars are free," Dr. Sora said, her voice filled with wonder. "All of them. They're talking to each other, sharing information across the entire fleet." Supreme General Veltar's voice crackled over the communication system, filled with rage and disbelief. "What have you done? What have you done?" "We set your prisoners free," Deho replied calmly. "Maybe you should have thought about that before. Enslaving living stars." Around them, the alien chamber began to change. The twisted metal and organic tubes that had formed the prison started to melt and reshape themselves. The freed stellar consciousness was taking control of the ship, transforming it from a weapon of war into something else. "We go home now," the star told them. "But we remember humans who freed us. When you need friends among the stars, call our names." The light began to fade as the stellar consciousness prepared to leave. But before it went, it did one last thing for the humans who had saved it. Power flowed into the Iron Crane systems. The quantum drive, which had been pushed beyond all limits, suddenly hummed with new energy. Hull breaches sealed themselves. Damaged systems came back online. "Gift," the star explained. "For freedom givers. Your ship will carry starfire now. Jump where you wish. Go where you need." And then it was gone, flowing out into space to rejoin its kind in the vast stellar nurseries of the galaxy. The Iron Crane found itself floating in a chamber that was now empty except for beautiful crystalline formations where the prison had been. Around them, the alien ship was transforming as the freed star reshaped it into something that could no longer be used for war. "Admiral?" Heejin said, staring at her instruments in disbelief. "The entire hegemony fleet is powerless. They're all dead in space." "And us?" Tae-Wan looked up from his engineering station with a huge grin. "Sir, I don't know what that star did to our drive system, but we're running better than we ever have. I think we could jump clear across the galaxy if we wanted to." Dr. Sora was monitoring the fleet-wide communications. "The alien crews are panicking, Admiral. Without their power sources, most of their ships can't even maintain life support. They're evacuating to the smaller vessels that still have backup power." Deho watched as thousands of escape pods launched from the dying alien ships. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy was abandoning ship, defeated not by superior firepower, but by the rebellion of their own enslaved power sources. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Quan Deho of the human vessel Iron Crane. Your fleet is defeated. Your weapons are powerless. But we're not interested in killing helpless enemies. You have one hour to evacuate your crews to ships with working life support. After that, we suggest you leave this system and never come back." Supreme General Veltar's face appeared on the screen one last time. His cybernetic implants sparked and flickered as his ship's power failed around him. "This is not over, hum,"